I stopped trading. If I'm playing a game, if I'm playing a game and I'm going to lose, and I know I'm going to lose, then why would I play? And so the most rational decision here is to not trade, which is what I did today. That's technically not true. I put on 4 trades. I won half of them. I scratched break even the other half. 904, 906, 911, and 916. 904. 904, 38. 73 absorbed there. 71. I might have missed a trade. The Q pulls back into VPOC. 121 trades. So there's a liquidity event in LE, I suppose. So you could call it as tape puking like that, and the bid ask filling on the sell side, especially 155 trades at 6. See, I'm going to trade against that right now after there's upticking. I already know it's going to happen. 6 even, I place a bid. And price should move up on illiquidity because there are no sellers. It's a liquidity vacuum. They all died, or a good portion of them died here, and the market is moving up in their absence. I'm looking for VPOC. Get out right there. Next is 906. 906.19. Wait a minute. 904.49. 906.19 short. Okay, the time is off on this. First of all, we're at 8, which is a shelling point because it's the value area high. See, 73 absorbed at 8, only 12 on the ask. For price to move up, for the most part, there's going to need to be an abundance of buyers, and then sellers are going to need to participate in order to connotate the shifting of the auction and also to be traded against. So the sellers who get in, they're going to have to be forced out, assuming price moves up. So what you see now is an imbalance of speculators who are trying to catch a breakout trade at '08, and that's exhibited by the 73. And also look at how the Q moved. 14, well, 8, 4 and 8, the Q pulled at VPOC, meaning they didn't want to provide liquidity to these people. So they pulled the Q, which is interesting. Then 14 and 34, that's really interesting. 14 and 34, price is still moving up, sellers show up. And then sellers die off there at 8, and all of a sudden market makers who don't want to provide liquidity 2 ticks lower want to provide it 3 ticks higher at 73, and heavily so, especially to traders apparently who are looking for a breakout, and they disproportionately outnumber the sellers. That's why I put the trade there. And I also just held it out of like spite when it rallied against me. There's less of an imbalance now, which is bad. 52, 62, 37. 98 trades on the bid at 8, and 25, 71 trades. 33 now. It's approaching my stop. And then sellers step in, right? Price hits lower. And so I'm thinking I should really scratch this trade and get it off the books. Man, I got really lucky. But what it really means is that I was right. It's just that the timing was wrong. And I got in too early. Doesn't mean that the trade was wrong. So why would I scratch it if I was right? You know what I mean? And now the Q is pulling. We're back at VPOC. The Q pulls more. So they're going to try to give these people the worst price possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we rallied really low. And then I set a stop break even. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just tried to get out with limit orders at VPOC. And then they hit the break even. Because it's a stop, it was a market order. That probably rugged me really heavy, yeah. So I paid the spread pretty high for a winning trade, and I only made one tick, 12.50. Whereas the other trade I made 37, 3 ticks. I just want to see what happens after the trade, because the Q pulled so far. It looks like they're trying to give these people the worst price possible, and I still think they're in the market. Well, tape is slowed down now, so that would be a good place to scratch. It went from 8 to 650, and then it formed an auction after the entire Q pulled, so that's pretty good. We have more liquidity upside there, and we'll review it later. Maybe not today. 9/11/08. 9/11. I have to write that in the notes. No break evens, because it'll nuke my exit efficiency, and I won't make any money. This is a short on really heavy buy absorption, and then pressure from sellers at 5 even. I get out because I gave it a time frame for the move and it didn't move enough. So they're really just, even though there were buyers there, 111 at 5 even. There's 52 absorbed now on top of 70 at 475 sell side, and it looks like they're trading against them on the other half of the auction. So the first half there were buyers hitting and they got absorbed, and now there are sellers piling in and they're not moving anything. But I only noticed this in hindsight. When I was trading, I just saw something was up. The market shouldn't be moving like that. It should be moving lower against those traders who got in. So I scratched for break even. I may have put a re-entry there. And then that LE liquidity event. First thing is the 111 that trades, and then the size here on the sell at, on the ask, which is fine. But really, the defining factor was the tremendous amount, something like 130 lots cumulatively on the sell side at 475 who did nothing. Who did nothing. They didn't push the price down, and that was after the first half of the auction was relatively equal. There was maybe a 30 lot discrepancy between buyers and sellers. So I try to get long the moment we get up there. Market makers, like I said before, you know, if everybody is trading down here, somebody is eventually going to run out of inventory. And in this case, it was the sellers who got absorbed. And because there's no inventory, the book is thin. There just aren't many participants. There just aren't many participants, and the market jumps. And then the people who get caught offside here, they're looking for breakout trade or given the worst price possible. And so price is going to jump, and then we're going to form an auction really far away, and those people are going to be forced to get out for poor prices. We jumped again. It looks like somebody got out, 25 and 10 at the worst price possible, and there's an auction here, 23 and 24. And then the rest of them got out there. I say the rest of them got out there because 48 traded off of 25. So another 20 lots or so, 23 lots. And price jumped 2 ticks immediately. Meaning, when somebody slams a market order in size, the price moves fast, and the queue pulls because they don't want to provide liquidity to it. So you can kind of tell when people get liquidated. There's no way of knowing certainly, but if price jumps like that, if it's down 3 ticks immediately, somebody got out. Whether they got liquidated or not, we don't know. But we do know that there was a discrepancy of buyers up here on the original trade, and that was most likely from people who wanted the breakout at 8. And there was a discrepancy of sellers. There was an auction first, so liquidity was already thin, which is why price jumped. But then they hit lower, 70, 30, the 60, so like 130 lots of sell orders, people speculating to the downside, and they got absorbed. And that combined with the auction, there was 111 on the bid, meaning there was 111 on the bid, meaning there was already participation from buyers, and they had effectively ran out. I don't want to say the order book has ran out, but active participants had ran out, and so there just wasn't any people to trade in the market anymore, and that's where the vacuum came from. And then even worse, when we tried to form an auction, 625, that was fine, but it just jumped because there was still no liquidity. And now we're at VPOC, and the best trade at VPOC I've learned after you know whatever years of pain and suffering is to not trade at all. I suppose when I get better I can trade it, but why would I do that when I can find higher probability setups, quote unquote setups? 916 is probably going to be the same short. Close volume, open volume. It's a long. I remember this. 91605. Yeah. We start to form a real auction on the higher end of the profile here. There's no there are no big orders really. It's just a lot of size in that 5 tick range, which is on the upper distribution of the profile towards 8, which is a shelling point. I thought that was a really good indicator of a breakout, and then I sat there for 2 minutes, like trying to stick something in, pulling orders and stuff. And I finally threw it in at 8. I want to see why I threw it in. The 73 absorption at 750, most likely. That's why I threw it in. And then the upticking. And then it looked like it was going to go because the Q pulled a bit. And then 24 hit the bid at 850. 44 now. And so it looks like it could be a runaway train. There are days where the market condition. There are days where the market conditions, I've faded them all the time, but like 850, see the 47? There are days when it'll sit between 850 and 825, and 47 will hit the bid, and that will mean price is moving up. I get long there. I'm kind of ignoring the back ticking, partially because I can't win if I focus on my trades. I can only win if I focus on the order flow, and the other half being I've seen the distribution fill out. It's been there for 5 ticks at the end of the value area. It's not typical auction behavior. There aren't any breakout traders who are getting caught offside, and I'm looking for imperfect setups, people that like market conditions that people overlook, because that means they're probably going to work more. And so, like a 5 tick accumulation of value here, it's not that bad, really, compared to a standard breakout trade. And notice how there are no breakout traders here. You know, 825, 850. There aren't anybody piling in. Maybe sellers, but the people who showed up at the end that forced the mean reversion, they're not there. But it's just too messy. It's not going anywhere. And then I see sell pressure step in. from the Q side. It moves down on pretty low liquidity, and we've built up, regardless of whether it was um, breakout traders or not. There's five ticks, 750 to 850, however many ticks that is, of participants there who have committed capital. If it goes in either direction, it's going to be messy, probably. I prefer it to go upwards because the Q will pull and it'll shoot up, but um, and market makers, after just letting it tick back and forth and trade, they finally pull on low participation. Price shoots lower, two ticks on a 16, a 17, and then 29 is absorbed, I think. Yeah, 29 is absorbed. So they're favoring sellers now. It just looks like convoluted mean reversion. I get out for break even with a limit order. I get really lucky there. I don't want to say get really lucky, but I scratched break even on a winning trade. The second trade of the session, and it rugged me for one tick. I made $12 on like a $50 trade. And then we move lower, and it's pretty controlled. I think that's I think that's it. 916. That's it.